The restaurant was one of those places where silence itself seemed expensive. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls from the ceiling, scattering golden light across polished marble floors. Waiters in black vests glided between tables like dancers in an endless, rehearsed ballet, their trays balanced with delicate glasses and artful plates. Every table was adorned with fresh roses, every guest dressed in designer suits and gowns. It was a place where deals were made, anniversaries celebrated, and fortunes quietly flaunted. And yet, in the farthest corner of the room, one man sat alone. Alexander Pierce. At 42, he was the kind of man everyone recognized but few dared to approach. His name was printed across glossy magazines and financial journals. The CEO of Pierce Holdings, an empire of real estate, construction, and luxury developments. His tailored suit was worth more than most people's monthly salary, and the heavy watch on his wrist ticked with precision like the rest of his life. To the world, Alexander was the image of success, sharp, commanding, untouchable. But inside, he felt hollow. His plate was filled with an expensive steak cooked to perfection, budded asparagus, and truffle mashed potatoes. Yet, like every other evening, he only picked at his food, never finishing it. The ritual wasn't about hunger, it was about distraction, a way to avoid the silence that followed him everywhere. He dined alone, worked alone, lived alone. His phone buzzed occasionally with emails and calls, but no one ever asked him how he was. No one waited for him at home. He had built skyscrapers that touched the clouds, yet he couldn't remember the last time he had touched another person with genuine love. As he swirled his wine absent-mindedly, Alexander's gaze drifted across the room. Wealthy patrons laughed, couples leaned close, and families shared meals together. A dull ache gnawed at him, one he pushed down like he always did. He told himself he had no time for such things, that solitude was the price of greatness. But a small, unshakable part of him wondered if all his success had been built on sand. Then, he saw them. At first, he thought his eyes deceived him. Two little girls stood at the entrance of the restaurant. They didn't belong in such a place, not with their worn-out shoes, their mismatched dresses, their tangled hair. They clutched each other's hands so tightly, as if letting go meant being swallowed whole by the world around them. A murmur spread through the diners. Some frowned, others whispered, and a waiter quickly approached, his polished smile stiff with irritation. "This establishment is private," the waiter hissed under his breath, trying to usher the children out before anyone made a scene. But before he could, one of the girls stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but her words rang clear across the room. "Sir, a broken bar," she said, looking directly at Alexander's table. Her eyes locked on his half-eaten plate. "May we broken bar have your leftovers?" The restaurant froze. The clink of forks stopped. The hum of conversations died. All eyes turned toward the small voice, toward Alexander, toward the unimaginable audacity of children daring to enter a palace of wealth and beg. Alexander felt his chest tighten. He turned slowly in his chair, his gaze falling on the little girl who had spoken. And then it hit him. Her eyes, deep hazel, flecked with gold. Eyes that pulled him backward in time with ruthless force. Eyes he had once gazed into late at night, when love was the only thing that mattered. Eyes that belonged to the only woman who had ever made him feel whole. Emily. His heart stopped, then pounded painfully in his chest. He had not seen those eyes in over a decade, not since Emily had walked out of his life. He had chosen ambition over her, chosen deals over dinners, money over marriage. She had begged him to slow down, to remember that love mattered more than contracts and deadlines. But he hadn't listened. He had watched her leave with tears in her hazel eyes, and he had told himself it was for the best. And now a broken bar, those very same eyes were staring at him from the face of a little girl. No, not one, two, identical twins. The second girl stepped closer, her voice even softer, as if afraid the world might punish her for speaking. "We're really hungry, please." Alexander's breath caught. The noise of the restaurant faded into a dull hum in his ears. He was no longer in the corner booth of an elite dining room. He was staring into the past he had buried under marble and glass towers. His mind raced. Could it be? Was it possible? Did Emily a broken bar? Did she have children? His children? The waiter cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, should I remove you?" "Stop," Alexander said sharply, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The waiter froze. Slowly, Alexander pushed his chair back. He ignored the curious eyes of the diners, ignored the whispers and raised brows. He walked toward the two girls, each step heavy, deliberate. And then, in a gesture that shocked the entire room, the billionaire CEO knelt down before them. His expensive suit brushed the floor, but he didn't care. "What are your names?" His voice was steady, but inside it trembled with something raw and unfamiliar. The first girl glanced at her sister before answering. "I'm Lily." The second whispered, "I'm Rose." Lily and Rose, beautiful, fragile names, spoken by trembling lips. Alexander's throat tightened. He forced himself to ask the question clawing at his chest. "Where is your mother?" The girls exchanged the look that was heavier than any child should carry. Finally, Lily spoke, her voice barely audible. "She has a broken bar gone." The word sliced through him. His vision blurred for a second as memories of Emily's laughter, her touch, her defiance filled him. Could she truly be gone? And if she was a broken bar, did that mean these children of these twins with her eyes were alone? His chest ached with a sharp, unfamiliar pain. For a man who negotiated billion-dollar deals with iron will, he felt like his entire being was unraveling in front of two small girls. He swallowed hard, forcing air into his lungs. "You're hungry," he said softly. "Come with me." The girls hesitated, clinging to each other. Their wary eyes studied him, as if weighing whether he was truly safe. Then, slowly, they followed him back to his table. Alexander waved his hand to the waiter. "Bring them food, the best of everything, now." The waiter blinked, stunned. "Sarah." Now, the tone in his voice left no room for argument. The girls slid into the booth across from him, their legs dangling above the floor. Their eyes darted nervously around the restaurant, as if afraid someone might throw them out. When the food arrived, platters of roasted chicken, warm bread, creamy pasta, they didn't wait. They ate quickly, desperately, as though every bite might be their last. Alexander watched in silence, his heart clenching at the sight. Their tiny hands gripped forks clumsily, their cheeks hollow from hunger, their wrists thin as twigs. They weren't just children in need of a meal. They were survivors. "Do you have anyone taking care of you?" he asked gently, once their plates were half empty. Rose looked down at her lap. Lily lifted her chin bravely. "We have each other." Those words broke something inside him. Two children, alone in the world, clinging only to each other. His empire suddenly felt meaningless compared to the fragile bond between these little girls. And as he sat there, watching them devour food with gratitude shining in their hazel eyes, Alexander felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not loneliness, not emptiness, but something new, something powerful. A stirring in his heart, the realization that these girls weren't just strangers. They were pieces of him, of Emilia, of the life he might have had if he hadn't chosen ambition over love. And for the first time in decades, Alexander Pierce, the untouchable CEO, knew one thing with absolute certainty. He could not let them go. The night had grown colder when Alexander stepped out of the restaurant with the twins. The city was alive with movement, honking cars, neon lights flickering against glass skyscrapers, pedestrians rushing past bundled in coats. But to Alexander, the world outside blurred. All he could see were the two small hands clutched together, gripping each other as if that bond was the only rope keeping them from falling into the abyss. He crouched on the sidewalk, a level with them. His breath came out in pale clouds as he studied their delicate faces, their messy hair, and most of all of their eyes. Those hazel flecks that pulled him backward in time every time he looked at them. "My name is Alexander," he said gently, his voice stripped of the authority it usually carried. "What are your names again?" The smaller one straightened, almost protectively shielding her sister. "I'm Lily," she said bravely, her chin lifted. "I'm Rose," the second whispered, her voice softer, as though it feared breaking apart in the air. Alexander nodded, repeating their names silently. Lily and Rose. The names clung to him, delicate yet fierce flowers pushing up through cracks in concrete. "Do you, a broken bar, know who your father is?" he asked, his throat tightening as the question escaped. The twins froze. Their expressions shifted to uncertainty, discomfort, sadness. Rose glanced at Lily, who finally answered after a pause. "Mama never told us his name," Lily said, her voice quiet but clear. She just to Broken Bar. He was busy. Too busy for us. The words struck him harder than any corporate rival ever could. Busy. Emily had used that word so many times, in arguments that still echoed in his memory. You're too busy, Alex. Always too busy for me, for us, for love. He had thought it was temporary. He had thought she would wait while he built an empire. But she hadn't. And now, if these were truly her children, she had carried that wound to her last days. His chest felt like it was being crushed. And your mother Broken Bar, when did she Broken Bar? His voice broke before he could finish. Rose's lips trembled. She got sick last year. We tried to take care of her. But to Broken Bar. She bit her lip hard, holding back tears with a bravery far beyond her years. She went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. Lily pulled her sister closer, wrapping her arms around her, their small bodies pressed together, a habit learned from countless nights of comforting each other in the dark. Alexander swallowed hard, fighting the storm raging inside him. Emily, gone, forever, the woman who once laughed at his ambition, who loved him when he was just a dreamer, who left when he couldn't give her the time she deserved. She was gone, and she had left behind these two fragile miracles. Where have you been staying? He asked, his voice unsteady. The girls hesitated. Then Lily pointed vaguely down the street. There's an old building, a Broken Bar near the train tracks. We sleep there. It's not too bad when it doesn't rain. The words shattered him. He had built luxury towers with penthouses worth millions. Yet Emily's children, his children, were sleeping in an abandoned building by the tracks. The weight of his wealth pressed on him like chains. For the first time, he saw it for what it was, hollow, cruel, meaningless without love to fill it. He stood abruptly, his decision clear. You're coming with me. The twins stiffened, fear flashing in their eyes. Lily stepped in front of Rose defensively. We don't go with strangers. Alexander's heart cracked. They didn't trust him, and why should they? The world had only shown him cruelty. He knelt again, lowering himself so they could see his face. His eyes, usually so cold and unreadable in boardrooms, softened with raw honesty. You're right, he said. You shouldn't trust strangers, but I promise you I will never hurt you. I will keep you safe. Please see Broken Bar. Let me help. For a long moment, the girls didn't move. Then Rose tugged Lily's sleeve and whispered, I'm tired, Lily. Lily studied Alexander carefully, searching his face for lies. Whatever she saw seemed to convince her. She nodded slowly. Okay, but only for tonight. Relief washed over him like a tide. He rose and hailed his black town car waiting at the curb. The driver's eyes widened slightly when he saw the twins, but Alexander's glare silenced any questions. As the car pulled away, the twins pressed their faces against the glass, marveling at the city lights streaking past. Alexander watched them, torn between awe and guilt. They looked so small, so fragile, yet so strong to have survived alone this long. When they reached his penthouse, the elevator doors opened to reveal a space of glass and steel, with sweeping views of the skyline. The girls stepped inside cautiously, their worn shoes tapping on the polished floor. Rose gasped. It's like a castle. Lily squeezed her hand. Don't touch anything, she whispered, as if afraid they might break something too valuable to replace. Alexander's throat tightened. What was the point of this palace if children were afraid to breathe inside it? Come, he said softly. You're safe here. He showed them the guest bedroom, larger than the entire abandoned building they had been sleeping in. The girls stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the two plush beds with wide eyes. Thusly Broken Bar. These are for us? Lily asked in disbelief. Yes, Alexander said firmly. From now on, everything here is yours. Rose ran forward, pressing her hands into the soft blanket, then turned and hugged her sister tightly. Lily's eyes glistened, but she held back tears. That night, Alexander sat outside their room, listening. He heard their whispers, their giggles as they bounced lightly on the beds, their voices filled with a wonder he hadn't heard in years. And then, as silence fell, he heard something else. The steady, even breaths of two children sleeping peacefully for the first time in who knew how long. He leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes. For years, he had chased power and wealth, believing they would shield him from loneliness. But tonight, for the first time in decades, he didn't feel alone. The next morning, The twins padded into the kitchen in oversized pajamas a maid had found for them. Their hair was tangled, their eyes still heavy with sleep. But when they saw the spread on the table, pancakes, fruit, warm milk, they lit up with joy. Alexander watched them eat, a strange warmth filling his chest. He realized something then. This wasn't charity. This wasn't about guilt or duty. This was about family. After breakfast, he pulled out a small box from his desk drawer. Inside was a single photograph, a creased, worn, carried with him though he rarely looked at it. Emily, smiling, her hair caught in the sunlight, those hazel eyes sparkling. He placed it gently on the table in front of the girls. Their forks froze midair. Rose reached for the photo with trembling hands. "Mommy, a broken bar," she whispered. Lily gasped softly, her eyes filling with tears. "That's her. That's our mama." Alexander's vision blurred, but he forced a smile. "She was a broken bar, the most amazing person I ever knew." The girls looked up at him then, and something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, connection, a thread weaving the past into the present. Lily's voice was small but steady. "Do you, a broken bar, know our papa?" The question tore through him. He inhaled deeply, fighting the storm inside. His lips trembled as he answered, "Yes, I know him." Rose tilted her head, her hazel eyes searching his face. "Who is he?" Alexander's chest heaved. He had spent years running from the consequences of his choices, burying the memory of Emily and the love he had lost. But now, with their eyes locked on his, he knew he couldn't run anymore. He leaned forward, his voice breaking but honest. "He's me." The twins stared, their expressions a mixture of shock, confusion, and something deeper, a flicker of hope. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Rose whispered, "Yuri broken bar, our papa?" Alexander's eyes burned. He reached across the table, his hands trembling. "Yes, and I promise you, if you'll let me, I will never leave you again." Lily looked at her sister, then back at him. Slowly, cautiously, she slid her small hand into his. Rose followed, placing her hand atop his, and there, in the quiet morning light of a penthouse that had once been nothing but glass and steel, Alexander Pierceal, only billionaire, untouchable Shah, finally found what he had been searching for all along. Not success, not wealth, not power, but family.